Our final speaker of the night is Marcus Pierre. Marcus is a Quinnipiac alum. He graduated in 2025, majoring in cybersecurity. In his talk, he will be discussing that passion, cybersecurity, and how he's using it to empower a better and safer cyber future for children. So please, everyone join me in welcoming Marcus Pierre.
I once asked middle school students a question during a workshop. How many of you use the internet every day? As you imagine, every hand in the room went up. So next, I asked a follow-up question. How many of you know how to protect yourself when you're online? Now, some kids still had their hands up, but aside from those few, most hesitated. Some looking around to see what friends are doing, others just stared right at me, but the rest shook their head no. One student, a little boy in my corner, I'll never forget it, he spoke up and he said, "No one's ever shown me how to." And that hit me. Not because it was some profound answer, but because it made me realize something. We've given these kids access to all different kinds of devices. We're having them take coding classes in high school, and they're building games as class projects, but with simple oversight. We've made this big jump to teach them all these cool things, but the most important piece, the foundation, is missing. They have access to these devices, but they don't understand how to use it. Young people today are increasingly exposed to cyber attacks, mainly because threat actors are targeting them, assuming they don't know any better. And if we're being honest, that strategy makes sense. Why pick on someone my own size when I can just beat up on someone who can't fight back? But then, that begs the other question, how come no one's taught them to fight back in the first place? Cybersecurity is often treated as a complex topic that's only meant for adults and gifted people. And initially, I thought that too. I didn't grow up thinking about tech. I wasn't watching futuristic movies. I wasn't putting together computers and coding in my free time. I got my undergraduate degree in criminal justice. I wasn't exposed to cybersecurity until my senior year of college. And when I was first learning about it, it felt super weird and unfamiliar. I began to learn about VPNs and antivirus software and experiment with different tools. And from there, my passion began to grow for it. So naturally, I was sharing what I was learning with my friends, and when I was doing that, something weird was happening. The more that I would talk about it, the less they understood. And that was so crazy to me because we were the first generation to ever grow up with technology, and we don't know how to understand how to use it ourselves. And this gap between using technology and understanding how to use technology has been around for a long time. Stats like these aren't new. Stories like Kai Zwan, who fell victim to a cyber kidnapping scam that forced his parents to pay $80,000 just to rescue him, aren't new or revolutionary. They're just being covered in the news more frequently. The current approach taken to solve this problem caters to high schoolers and college students. We are implementing new online certifications, we're adding new college majors, and we're having them go to STEM and STEAM boot camps. And all of that's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough. Because by the time they hit that age, it's often too late. By this time, children have already been exposed to a cybersecurity threat, and unfortunately, some have already fallen victim to it. So we're trying to quickly build confidence in them after years of little to no exposure. We're trying to spark interest after many have found passions elsewhere. We're not proactively solving the problem, we're trying to stop it at the end of the pipeline. And if you continue to approach it this way, we'll continue to react instead of prevent. So I began to share more of what I was learning with my friends, and from there, I developed my passion of helping people. Seeing them understand what I was saying was so cool to me. Them using things like strong passwords and two-factor authentication was making a real difference in their lives. And quickly I realized that I understood cybersecurity for myself, but I wanted to make sure that others could get access to it earlier than I did. So I began to think, what would happen if we introduced cybersecurity topics to children earlier? What would happen if we stopped waiting? The answer is simple. Digital Defenders. Digital Defenders is a nonprofit that I founded that's meant to educate students and children on internet safety. Through my nonprofit, you've been able to go to schools from elementary schools all the way to high schools, going to libraries, community centers, and even summer camps, just to reach students on message. And in my time working with kids, I realized something so important. Kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for. If we give them a chance, they'll ask questions that adults would never ask. And they'll often pick up on things faster than adults do. They don't want to understand how something works. They want to understand why it works. I've had students ask me what digital footprints are. I've had them ask me what phishing scams are and what other scams are out there for them, and even what they can do to help protect their parents and their siblings. And in that moment, you realize that the interest and passion is already there on their side. The hard part's been done. We don't have to force or manufacture this. We have to force them to eat what they don't like. So the problem isn't the lack of interest. It's lack of exposure. When we expose children to cybersecurity concepts earlier, something cool begins to happen. Exposure becomes curiosity. Curiosity becomes confidence. Confidence creates passion. And passion breeds purpose. And I've seen the same thing happen, not just in these students, but in myself. I went from being super unfamiliar with technology to now being passionate about it. And same for these kids. They've gone from being not used to it to now being comfortable with it. They're going home and they're talking to their parents and their siblings and their friends about different skills they've learned. And they begin to explore their own passions. And that's how purpose begins. Not when you're an adult, not when you're in college, when you're in high school, but in the moment you realize that you can make an impact. And if we can create more of these moments, we begin to shape a generation of smarter, safer, responsible people, and this gap that we currently have begins to close. So, I've seen what I can do to help solve this problem. The next step is figuring out what you can do. The good news is, it's not something we have to wait a long time to fix. We can start right here, right now, in this very room. It starts with changing how we perceive young people. We need to think of them as people who are capable of understanding everything put in front of them. Because they are. We need to introduce topics earlier in schools, in libraries, and even at home. Now, the goal isn't to make them all cybersecurity experts. It's to make them feel like they have power. It's to help them navigate the digital world confidently and safely. And maybe, just maybe, even discover passion along the way. So, thinking back to that moment when I was in that classroom and the student told me that no one had ever showed him how to be safe online, I answered him, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And it's true. It does not have to stay that way. I found cybersecurity later in my life, but I found my purpose in making sure others don't have to. A safer future doesn't start with better technology, it starts with better prepared people. And those people are sitting in classrooms across the world every single day. The gap that we're trying to close tomorrow is one that we can be preparing for today. Thank you.